Hi all, this is Sean, and this is part 2 of a multi-part series explaining how to update results using the AutomatedDRE version 2 software. Part 2 will explain how to view previously collected data and make small changes to the results through the graphical user interface of the AutomatedDRE 2 program. So I've loaded up the AutomatedDRE 2 program. I'm going to unhide these options by clicking on the options button there. And at the bottom, I have this application type box, and I'm going to switch from live collection mode to load data from local. Now, when I hit next, this window is going to pop up, and we're going to see up at the top that we're looking for data to load in this default location, which if you refer to part 1 of the series, is the default location where we store all of our DRE results. If for some reason you've moved your DRE results around, you can select this button here and navigate to that root directory of where you've moved your results to. The way this works is we have this panel here. This would contain all of your fab IDs. So if you select a fab ID, then it'll show you all of your POU IDs under that fab ID tag. And then if you select on your POU ID, it'll show you all of the DRE tests that were performed for that particular fab ID POU ID combination. And if I select one of those, it will open up this last pane here, which kind of gives you a little brief summary of what's in that file. But if we come down here to this bottom section, we talked about how there are all these different files in part 1 of the series, and what this does is this interface does is it grabs all of those files and puts them into these boxes down here. These are all the files that it found that should be associated with that fab ID, POU ID, and this particular run. And so if you click on this last run indicator here and you get all check marks on all 5 of these boxes, then you should be good to go. You can hit accept. If for some reason it failed to find something, one of these boxes is unchecked and one of these text boxes doesn't have any text in it, then that means that the program couldn't find it for whatever reason, and so you're welcome to click on these buttons that are underneath to manually point it to wherever that may be. And the way it works is we have inlet data. This would be the DRE data to search for the .DRE. This would be that .flow data, and then the same for the outlet. And then this last one, the flow results, would be that .json. And I'd refer you back to part 1 where we digested what all of these files mean and what kind of information is inside of them. But I've got all of my checkboxes clicked. I'm good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and accept. When I hit accept, it's going to load in all that information from all of those files and populate all the fields of our DRE2 program. And it's going to allow us to kind of step through it again as if we were still as if we did when we were collecting it live. You can view the results. We're going to skip over this. This is a new feature in version 2.27. If you refer to part 1 of the series, I mentioned there was this JSON file that we didn't actually look at. That's tied to this window, but we're going to skip over that and make that its own separate video some other day. And we're just kind of stepping through. You can see it populated what the final flow rates were measured during the test, but eventually we'll get here to these graphical windows where everything is active, and you're welcome to make any sort of small changes that you would like to these particular data sets. So, for example, I can kind of slide these windows around, do stuff like this. I keep the 40 points there, but so you could do this, and you're going to be able to see. I think on this particular data set, we measured 4 inlets simultaneously. So I can step through each one and make some small changes to each of them if I want to or not. But it allows you to step through. You can do what you will. Then we'll eventually get to the outlet, and we can do the same thing on the outlet. We have our windows. This particular outlet flow rate test, perform the stratification test, and that's why we have 3 red windows. But again, you can move all 3 of those windows individually if you'd like. This is totally up to whatever your goal is of your analysis at this point. But all of those changes that we've made, with our windows specifically, will all get reflected in this summary uh, table here, and you can maybe make some more changes if you want, such as the adjusted flow rate field. And then lastly, we'll get to the final tab here, and there won't be any spectra, obviously, but maybe in the future versions we'll figure out how to populate some of that. But you can certainly navigate to the time series tab, and all of our information, it can be clicked on and viewed. And again, here we do the same thing. We can maybe clean up, some of these regions. Maybe we want to tighten that up and tighten that up, and maybe we want to pull this region out a little bit, right? So we could do these small kind of changes. Anything you do there will get reflected um, in the DRE result. And then once I've gotten everything the way that I think is perfect, I just hit the save button. And when you hit the save button, do not worry, it doesn't override anything that was previously that you've previously done. It always writes a new file, so there's no loss. No information can get lost. So save as often as you want. But yeah, so this would kind of conclude part two. In part three, we're going to actually take this one step further, and we're going to show how we can take a set of data that we've reprocessed in New Wave to, maybe we've made analytical changes to our methodology and cleaned up some of the concentration results. And then we're going to import those into the DRE program, and then step through these pages to then, produce the final DRE results in the file formats that we looked at in part one.